If you have ever stood in your garden in July, staring at leaves chewed full of holes, plants that refuse to thrive, and a wallet that gets lighter every time you walk into the garden center, then stay with me, friends, because today changes that. For generations, the Amish have grown some of the most abundant, healthy, pest-free gardens in this country. And they do it almost entirely without the sprays, the gadgets, and the expensive products the rest of us keep buying. They grow twice the food on a fraction of the money, and the secrets are not complicated. They are just quietly passed down, garden to garden, never written in the books the rest of us read. Today, I am handing you 15 of those tricks, in order, the same way I would teach a neighbor over the fence. By the time we reach the very last one, you will have a way to protect your plants that I had never seen in any gardening book until I learned it from the plain folks themselves. So grab your coffee and let us get growing. The first trick is the one that quietly makes every other trick work. Build your soil first, with compost and aged manure, because that is your real pest defense. We think pests are a spray problem, but the Amish treat them as a soil problem. When your soil is alive and rich, your plants grow strong, with thick, tough cell walls, instead of the soft, weak growth that bugs love to chew. So a healthy plant simply shrugs off the moderate pest pressure that would flatten a struggling one. So each spring, lay 2 to 3 inches of finished compost mixed with fully aged manure, never raw, over your beds, and work it gently into the top 4 to 6 inches. Horse or cow manure that has aged is perfect. The payoff is fewer infestations all season long, with 0 sprays. You feed the soil, and the soil defends the plant. The second trick is to border every bed with small French marigolds. And hear me clearly, French marigolds, not the big African ones. Space them about 10 to 12 inches apart, ringing your beds like a little orange fence. Down beneath the soil, the roots of the French marigold release a natural compound that knocks back root knot nematodes, those microscopic pests that quietly wreck your roots underground. That part is backed by real agricultural research, friends. It is not folklore. And up above, their strong scent muddles the pests that hunt your crops by smell. So the marigold protects you on 2 fronts, below the ground and above it, all from a flower you can start from seed for pennies. The third trick builds right on that idea. Interplant aromatic herbs to confuse the pests by smell. The Amish almost never grow their crops in lonely, separated blocks. Many garden pests find their dinner by smell, sniffing straight to the tomato or cabbage they have been waiting for. But when your garden smells like a dozen things at once, those pests lose the trail entirely. So tuck basil right in among your tomatoes. Plant dill or cilantro beside your cabbage and broccoli. Scatter strong-smelling flowers down the rows. You are not setting up a separate herb garden in the corner. You are weaving these scents right through your vegetables. The payoff is double. You get lower pest pressure across the whole garden, and fresh herbs you would have wanted to grow anyway. The fourth trick is one I wish I had learned years sooner, because I made the very mistake it cures. Plant a beneficial insect strip, and leave a little corner of your garden gently wild. I once spent good money buying a tub of ladybugs, released them with high hopes, and watched nearly everyone fly straight off over the fence by morning. The Amish do not buy their good bugs. They invite them and keep them. So set aside one strip that blooms from spring all the way to fall, with sweet alyssum, yarrow, dill, and fennel. Then leave a patch of clover nearby and a small pile of logs or stones. That blooming strip feeds the ladybugs, the lacewings, and the tiny parasitic wasps. And that wild patch shelters them. These are the very insects that eat your aphids and caterpillars for free. The payoff is a built-in pest patrol that actually stays and raises its young in your garden. The fifth trick is one of the most satisfying you will ever try. Use trap crops to pull the pests right off your main harvest. Instead of fighting pests on your prized tomatoes, you give them something they like even better, somewhere you do not mind losing. So plant nasturtiums along the edges to gather up the aphids. Pop in a few radishes to pull the flea beetles away from your eggplant. And tuck a Blue Hubbard squash in a far corner to soak up the squash bugs and vine borers that would otherwise ruin your harvest. The pests crowd onto the bait, and then you simply deal with the crowded decoys, not your main crop, far from the plants you have counted on all season. The sixth trick is to cover your young crops with floating row fabric, and this one stops the damage before it can ever start. In those early weeks, the moths and beetles come looking to lay their eggs right on the tender leaves of your young cabbage, broccoli, and little squash. So, drape a lightweight row cover fabric right over those young plants and tuck the edges down, snug into the soil. The pests cannot reach the leaves, so they cannot lay their eggs, and the damage you would have spent all summer fighting never even begins. Then, once your plants come into flower, you lift that cover off so the bees can get in and do their work. The payoff is clean, unchewed, healthy plants through the most fragile part of their lives. Just a simple barrier doing exactly what it should. The seventh trick is the backbone of every great Amish garden. Rotate your crop families every single year. This old practice is essential, and yet so many of us skip it. Never grow the same plant family in the same spot 2 years running. Follow your heavy feeders, your tomatoes and corn, with soil-building legumes like beans and peas. Then follow those with your lighter feeders, your greens and roots, and keep that wheel turning year after year. The pests and diseases that attack a crop over winter right there in the soil, waiting patiently for their favorite host to return. When you move that host, you starve them out and break the cycle before it can build. The payoff is steadier yields, healthier soil, and far fewer of those problems that come back season after season. We are about halfway through now, and here is something every American gardener should truly understand about the Amish way, because it ties all of this together. The Amish are not chasing the newest product or the quickest fix. They garden as though they will be tending this very same soil in 20 years, and as though their grandchildren will tend it after that. Every trick you are learning today comes from that one patient mindset. Feed the soil, work with nature instead of against it, and waste nothing. They do not buy their way out of problems. They build their way out, slowly and surely. Once that idea settles into you, gardening stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like a partnership. Hold on to that, friends, as we move into the second half. The eighth trick pays you back for the rest of your life. Save seed from your healthiest open-pollinated plants. This is the heart of true heirloom gardening, and the Amish have done it for generations. Each season, walk your garden and mark your strongest, healthiest, best-tasting open-pollinated plants, and let a few of them go to seed. Dry that seed somewhere cool and dark, then store it airtight in a labeled jar. Over the years, by always saving from your very best, you slowly breed a strain of plant perfectly suited to your own yard, your own soil, your own climate. The payoff is twofold: free seed every single spring, and plants that grow tougher and better, adapted with each passing generation. The ninth trick saves so much heartbreak. Mulch under your ground fruit with clean straw. Think of all the fruit that grows lying right on the dirt, your strawberries, melons, and pumpkins. That contact with bare, damp soil is exactly where the rot starts. And it is heartbreaking to lose a beautiful melon to a soft, spoiled bottom. So slip a thick layer of clean, seed-free straw underneath that fruit so it never touches the ground at all. That straw blocks the soil moisture and fungi that cause rot. It also holds water in for the thirsty roots, and it smothers the weeds that would otherwise compete. Just be sure your straw is clean and seed-free, so you are not planting a weed problem. The payoff is more fruit that actually makes it to your kitchen table. The 10th trick is the Amish gardener's free liquid feed. Feed your plants with aged manure tea. Now I want to be very careful here, because the safety part matters. Use only fully aged, composted manure for this. Never raw manure, because raw manure carries a real risk of pathogens on your food. With that understood, put a shovelful of that well-aged, composted manure into a cloth sack. Lower it into a barrel of water, and let it steep for 1 or 2 days. Then dilute it until it is the color of weak tea, and pour it right at the base of your hungriest plants. Because the nutrients are already broken down and ready, your plants drink them up fast, without the burn you would get from a harsh chemical feed. The payoff is a free, gentle tonic that greens your plants right up, made from something most folks would have just thrown away. The 11th trick is one of the smartest free resources you have. Catch rainwater for your garden. The Amish waste nothing, and good water falling onto your own roof is far too valuable to let run off down the gutter. So set a barrel under a downspout to catch the runoff. That water is free, it is soft, and it is free of the chlorine that comes out of your tap, and plants take to rainwater noticeably well. Now, 2 simple cautions. Keep that barrel screened so mosquitoes cannot breed in it. And do check that rainwater collection is allowed where you live, because the rules vary by state. The payoff is a standing reserve of the very best water your garden can get, and it costs you nothing to collect. The 12th trick is a hands-on secret that saves your back. Sow your tiny seeds mixed with dry sand for even rows. Anyone who has ever tried to plant carrots or fine lettuce seed knows the frustration. The seeds are so small, they clump together, and then you spend hours hunched over, thinning out the crowded mess. So before you sow those fine seeds, shake them up in a jar with a few handfuls of dry sand. Then sprinkle that sand and seed mix right along your row. The sand bulks up the tiny seed and spreads it out evenly. The payoff is tidy, well-spaced rows, and almost none of that back-bending, knee-aching thinning. It is such a small trick, friends, but the first time you try it, you will wish you had known it years ago. The 13th trick is a frugal little lifesaver for the cold. Insulate your pots with wool to beat the frost. The roots in a container freeze far faster than roots safely down in the ground, because there is nothing around that pot but cold air on every side. So when a late frost or an early cold snap threatens your container plants, wrap those pots in old wool socks, worn-out sweaters, or a bit of burlap. That simple wrap holds in just enough warmth to carry the roots safely through a cold night. It is a perfect example of the Amish spirit, using what you already have instead of buying something new. The payoff is that your tender potted plants and early starts survive the frosts that would have killed them. The 14th trick is about caring for the tools that take care of your garden. Keep a few sharp hand tools and clean them with vinegar. The Amish do not buy a new trowel every spring. They keep a few good hand tools sharp and cared for, and those same tools last a lifetime. So at the end of the season, soak your rusty trowels and pruners in plain vinegar to loosen the rust. Then scrub them clean, dry them well, and rub on a light coat of oil to protect them. The vinegar's mild acid quietly dissolves that light rust away. And here is a bonus most folks miss. A sharp, clean tool makes a clean cut, and clean cuts spread far less disease from plant to plant than ragged, torn ones do. The payoff is tools that cut clean and serve you for decades, all for the cost of a jug of vinegar. And now we come to the 15th trick, the one I told you I would save for last. The transplant protection I had never seen in any gardening book until the plain folks showed me. Collar. Every transplant with a cardboard tube against cutworms. If you have ever set out healthy young seedlings at night and found them lying severed on the ground by morning, that is the cutworm, and it is one of the most maddening losses in all of gardening. So when you set out a seedling, slip a short section of toilet paper or paper towel tube around the stem, pushing it about an inch down into the soil and leaving about 2 inches above. The cutworm circles the stem at night to sever it, and that cardboard collar simply stops it cold. Then, in about a month, once the stem has hardened off, the cardboard quietly rots away on its own. The payoff is that you stop losing transplants overnight, using free cardboard you would have thrown out anyway. Now, here is how you put it all together, friends, because these 15 tricks are strongest when they work as one. Start with the soil, because a strong plant is your first defense. Ring your beds with marigolds, and weave your herbs through the rows to confuse the pests. Invite the good bugs to stay. Set out your trap crops, and cover the young ones with fabric. Rotate your families. Save your best seed, mulch your fruit, feed with manure tea, and water with the rain you catch. Sow smart, protect your pots and your transplants, and care for your tools. Layer these together, and you have a garden that mostly defends and feeds itself. And here is a quick mistake to avoid. Never use raw, fresh manure on or near your food, in your soil or in your tea. Always let it age and compost fully first. Raw manure carries real risk, and that one bit of patience keeps your garden both abundant and safe. And that is the complete list, friends. Let us run back through all 15 quick and clean. 1. Build the soil first with compost and aged manure. 2. Border your beds with French marigolds. 3. Interplant aromatic herbs to confuse pests. 4. Plant a beneficial insect strip and leave a little habitat wild. 5. Use trap crops to pull pests off your main harvest. 6. Cover young crops with floating row fabric. 7. Rotate your crop families every year. 8. Save seed from your healthiest plants. 9. Mulch under your ground fruit with clean straw. 10. Feed with aged-manure tea. 11. Catch rainwater. 12. Sow tiny seeds with dry sand. 13. Insulate your pots with wool against frost. 14. Keep your hand tools sharp and clean with vinegar. 15. Collar every transplant with a cardboard tube against cutworms. If this helped you, please do hit that like button. It genuinely helps more folks find this channel. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a video. And tell me down in the comments which trick you will try first, along with your US state and your growing zone. I read every comment, friends. Until next time, happy planting from all of us here at Everbloom Garden.